Hi, and welcome to the Captioned Life, a show for the most casual and dedicated fans of comics and a member of the Comic Watch family. I'm your host, Sean. Join me and discover what the world of comics and graphic novels have to offer. From one-on-one interviews with industry professionals, roundtable discussions with passionate fans, and reviews on the latest comics, TV shows, and movies. Now let's dive right on in. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Captioned Life. One of the great things about being a kid is playing with toys. Hell, for some of us, we still love playing with toys. But just like many pop culture genre, there are many facets in the world of toys. Some people dedicate their lives to creating toys, collecting them, studying them, and even photographing them. Toy photography has actually been around for quite some time and is not simply a trend. And I thought I'd invite somebody to come on the show today to talk about toy photography. So please welcome Matt Ma. Also known as AmusingKing on social media, Matt runs his own photography and video production business. On social media, he is best known for his toy photography content. He is also married with 3 kids. Matt, welcome to the show.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
How is everything going? I know you just had a brand new child at your house, and you've been really busy with that.
Yeah, she was born November 1st, right after we went trick-or-treating, dressed as Star Wars characters. And yeah, it's just been a crazy adjustment because it's our 3rd one. So it's like my wife and I are officially outnumbered. And I've heard mixed things about that. And it's definitely been on the harder end, but
right.
I mean, like I wouldn't do it any other way. So it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really happy.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I know you are a huge Star Wars fan from what I can see from your account. And your son name is Luke. I'm assuming there's Star Wars influence from that.
No, not at all. No, it's actually Luke from Gilmore Girls.
Believe it or not, I love Gilmore Girls, so I get that reference.
I do too.
Yeah. Do you really? Oh my god!
I mean,
so great.
Like I wouldn't love it if it wasn't for my wife, but I mean, like it was a show that she had started to watch, like without me, so I don't have to watch it with her. But I remember I was on my computer editing, and I saw it, and like it got me hooked, and so I'm not ashamed to say I'm a fan.
Oh yeah. Well, I'll go even further and say that I actually watched it in high school, on my own. I just thought it was a really good show. Nice. I really liked it. Yeah. So what's funny is my wife and I went for Halloween one year as Luke and Lorelai from Gilmore Girls. So I forget how I got this hat, but somebody that knew had the like Luke's diner hat. So I just put that on and like a flannel shirt, basically, and I was Luke from Gilmore Girls. It was probably the easiest costume I ever had to make in my life. Yeah.
For sure. That's awesome.
So, well, that is great. Well, again, thanks for coming on the show. As we talk about with toy photography, I gotta be honest, I know that it was a thing when I was, not necessarily when I was growing up, but probably when I was in like high school and college. I knew toy photography was kind of a thing that existed out there. And I didn't really, I guess, pay attention a lot to it until I came across your account. And I got to say, your account is amazing. Just not just the photography that you do with toys, but your account, especially on TikTok, goes through how you set it up and, just like the before and after, I think really does some really cool things to show how toy photography is not just taking picture of toys, but, setting those things up and kind of creating a scene in a sense. And a lot of those just look so realistic. That's mind-boggling. I don't think I would ever be able to know that they're toys. So I was very excited to have you on because I think this is something that not a lot of people know about this genre, might have some preconceived notions of what it is. And so I knew that I wanted to get you on the show. We've been talking about it for a while, so I'm very excited to have you on here. So before we get started into that genre, I always like to ask people about their origin story. And usually because this is a mostly comic show, I ask people about their comics origin story, but I'm going to change it for you a little bit and ask you, what's your origin story when it comes to toys or toy photography or anything along those lines that you might want to, share, like what your origin story was with that?
Well, it all started at, I was on a field trip and there was this radioactive spider. No, I'm just kidding.
I was about to say, yes.
But yeah, with, were you saying specifically toy photography or?
Any of those things? It could be toy photography, or it could be like toys or photography in general, something like that, or maybe it's
Yeah.
kind of a whole progression. Yeah.
Yeah, there is kind of a progression to it. I know. I was a 90s kid, and I was into all the things with Pokemon cards and the video games. I did Digimon for a little bit. It wasn't as cool. Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic the Gathering cards.
Mm-hmm.
This one didn't pick up, but it was a Star Wars trading card game.
Oh
That was like
yeah.
it was super cool. Like you had like different fields to play on, and my cousin, I had my cousin to do it all with, and like everything we did together. I got into Beanie Babies, collecting those. Those were like a hot thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I did do some Legos, but it wasn't like really like into collecting them. I just kind of had them. But I had a bunch of like those toys and action figures, um, and I guess I don't know if it's a real thing or not, but I feel like in our DNA, there's like a collecting gene, and some people have it and some people don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know I definitely had it, but it kind of like went away for a while. And I've always liked everything. Like I've always been a Star Wars fan. I got into Harry Potter late, but I like Harry Potter. I love Lord of the Rings. Like so, I
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of like nerdy stuff. I never really got too much into comic books, like themselves, but I mean, like I love like all the Marvel video games. I was also a
Mm-hmm.
big gamer, so that played a role in, I guess, my nerdiness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then going into high school, I feel like a lot of that like kind of died down, and not so much for myself. I guess I was just typical like a kid trying to kind of like hide himself or try to fit in or something. I don't know.
Right.
So like I didn't. It's not like I stopped watching Star Wars. I still loved it, but I wouldn't wear a Star Wars shirt.
Right.
And so I feel like it kind of like dimmed down a little bit. But in college, I started like with one of my friends who was kind of like a nerd also.
Mm-hmm.
And he was definitely more like just out there, and it was real cool and like just good for me because like I just saw like more about being myself and all that. And then with my church, I started like going into college. I became like a leader for my student ministry, and like they had asked me to take pictures, and my mom bought me like a little. I had it lying around somewhere, like a little Sony or Canon CyberShot camera.
Oh
And so
yeah, yeah.
on the trip, I just kind of took pictures because we didn't have phones back then. Um,
What?
or like, well, I guess we did, but not like
It was
not
a
like
Nokia phones, not
yeah,
not
yeah,
the
exactly,
smartphones. It was like
exactly, yeah,
literally
yeah.
keypad and that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you needed to have a separate camera.
Right.
And so I remember just taking a bunch of pictures on the trip, put together like a rewind video, and it was like, oh, cool. And then that kind of went into um, like, oh, I can do more than pictures. Let me do some video stuff. And so I started taking video, and then I was like, hey, I can do that more than just here at church. Like, let me do like stuff with my friends or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so that became my thing for a while, to where I was a teacher. I taught middle school students, but I knew I didn't want to do that for a long time,
Right.
and I saw an opportunity to, hey, let me, like, I started getting better with my camera, like let me like go full time with this. And so I did quit my job and I jumped into photography and video. I do a lot of like wedding films too. So that's my main thing with that. But then one of the photographers that I work with, like, cause I do a lot of wedding videos and he would do a lot of wedding photos. He was I guess a nerd, and he like randomly, it was around when Mandalorian season 1 came out.
Mm-hmm.
He got like one of the Black Series figures, and he was taking some pictures of it, and I just thought like it looked super cool. I was like what? Like that's interesting because I've always wanted to be like, I mean, I guess in a general sense, like I've always wanted to be an artist,
Right.
but like I always sucked at drawing. I never really had like good ideas for images and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always kind of just had that, but I never really like explored it. And even with photography, like it was definitely an outlet, but like I wasn't able to create the images like I wanted.
Right.
And so when he got into this toy photography stuff and started sharing some images, and he was kind of collecting too, like it just kind of like that I mean, I guess like it was kind of progression, but that like nerd collecting gene spark that was kind of
Yeah.
like dormant for a while. It was like I don't know, like it just went off and or went on, but it blew up, and like dang, like I had like zero. I mean, I had some like random figures from my childhood that I collected or still had,
Right.
but as far as like my main collection, I pretty much had zero, and I went from zero to like so many. Like
Yeah.
it's ridiculous how much. So that's a part of it, was the collecting. So that definitely added to the whole experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's just being a collector, but then on top of that, like being able to create scenes and just like make art, like it really like fulfilled something that was missing in me. And even with like the pictures, and like there's small scales, and so you can kind of look at it like, oh well, that's nothing to it, but like yes, there could be nothing to it and you have a bad picture, but
Right.
you could really make it something like epic. And not just epic, but like what's cool is like all the light placement, because a lot of like the video, I did a lot of trainings with video production and some other photography, like real people photography.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to like the lighting and some of these like other effects and stuff, like it's easy just to throw a bunch of lights on a figure, but like there could be a reason why this light's here and then
Right.
this light's over here in the back, and or maybe there's no light, and then there's this effect here, and oh, this lightsaber comes out. Like anyone can add a lightsaber, but is it going to look like it's a part of the image, or you just added it afterward?
Mm-hmm.
And so there's so many like little things, and all of those like can translate to like real people too. Like so I can like I can confidently say that being a better toy photographer has made me a better real person photographer, and also
Mm-hmm.
a better like video maker when it comes to like wedding films and like understanding like the lighting and all that. It's just it's a great way to practice
Mm-hmm.
and just get better without a model complaining or anything like that. Like everything's in your control, and it's at a real like a good scale. Like it doesn't take up too much space.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and I could definitely tell with some of your content, because I know you definitely play around with different kinds of lighting to get different kinds of
Mhm.
moods. Because I forget which one it was, but I remember I really enjoyed the one where you did some backlighting where you didn't really see a lot of the face, but when you did, it just kind of gave like a sinister look to it.
Mm.
And I can't remember what it was, but I definitely have seen that in some of your work. And what's
Mm.
funny is how you talk about with toy photography, sparked that love that you had for all the nerdy things that lay dormant, all that. I feel like there's a lot of people our age who have that sort of thing where we
Mm.
grew up loving these nerdy things, and for one reason or another, we got away from it. And then as adults, we're getting back into those things that we absolutely love. And
Mm.
just like what you like, I didn't really collect a whole lot of comic books or anything else until probably like 5 or 7 years ago, and now it's like
Mm.
I have to figure out and be more selective of what I want, because I'm like
Yeah.
I'm running out of space to hold all this stuff, and I don't want to just be in my attic or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I think there's something to the fact that there's going to be a lot of people who have that same sort of story, that
Mm.
something had happened to them as an adult that really ignited their love again for those nerdy things that they grew up with. And you definitely
Mm.
see that in your content. And I think it's really interesting that you didn't get into toy photography till just recently. So I think it's really cool
Mm.
to think about. I think there's this how do I want to say this? I think there is this um oh, what's the word I'm looking for? Not theory, but I think there's this stigma almost, right?
Mm.
There's a stigma that adults can't enjoy some of those things.
Mm.
And not only that, but you have to do it early on in order to,
Oh yeah.
have anything, to do with it or be successful with it. Otherwise, when you get to a certain age, like, might as well kiss it goodbye. But I think there's a lot of
Mhm.
people that I'm running into that don't really get into this until well into their adulthood. Like I had somebody on the show before where they actually didn't start drawing until they were in their, I think, early to mid 20s. And now they're like a great artist. And so I love hearing stories where people didn't really get into this till later in life, because I feel like that's
Mm.
how I am. Like I feel like I'm
Yeah.
always a little too late to the scene, but when I'm on the scene, I absolutely love it. It just takes me a while to get there.
Yeah.
So, but that's really cool. I love hearing that. I love how tour photography ended up being something that you kind of fell into from your friend, and then it's actually, as you said, made you a better photographer. So it sounds like toy photography is not really your main business, but it's something that you kind of do creatively for, one, for your social media accounts, but also, just to kind of experiment and get a better understanding of the craft of photography in general. That also plays into, your video production side as well too, right?
Yeah. And like, I do have like a slightly bigger goal than maybe most people, as far as like I do see, especially with social media and like the power that it can give, like would it be a full-time thing? I don't know, but I definitely see the potential in it becoming something, which is like, and it's not, which is why I am like branched out, as far as like, I'm not just doing photos. Right. I think that's hard if you're like just taking pictures of whatever, like, unless it's, I don't know, the most unique, craziest thing in the world, like it's not going to get a lot of attention. But if you start doing stuff like, hey, here's how I did it, and it's like, oh, okay, or it's like, oh, here's some other like ways you can do it, or just like, there's a bunch of different things to add to it. And so whether it's whether it's through like the YouTube or TikTok sponsorships, or affiliate links, or whatever, or making my, or selling my own photos or whatever, I definitely hope to make it something bigger. But as of right now, like I say, I mean, it is just like a creative outlet hobby.
Right.
But yeah, I have some dreams there.
Oh, I was going to say, I'm fully expecting you to get some sort of pay partnership with Hasbro at some point, because I think honestly, Matt, like, I'm not even, blowing smoke at you, but like, I remember when I first followed you on TikTok, I think you and I were both kind of new to it, and we were both starting out. And I just remember early on, your work was just amazing and fantastic in the scenes that you've been able to create. And each video that you put out, I'm just like, you're just leveling up. That these things, like, if you hadn't done the before and after type of stuff, this would look very similar to the things that you see in some of the major production companies that they put out and everything. It looks like an actual scene from a movie. And I think it's just fantastic in what you've been doing with all this stuff. And one of the things that I think will be really interesting to see is how far, like, what else you could do with toy photography, because like you said, the before and after thing, I think, is a genius way to kind of show that, because a lot of us, I know me particularly, but I think this is a lot of people as well too. I didn't really realize the amount of effort and work it goes into making something look good until I started getting into video production myself. And that's why I personally also do like a before and after snapshot to show people, when you're hiring me as a video producer or whatever, like, these are the things that you're getting, is that I take their raw footage and, show them what it looked like initially, and then what the end product is. So that way they have something to compare it to. And I think that's why your videos have taken off really well, because you see all the things you do on the back end, how you're setting things up, what it looks like, I think, in a raw camera set, like with your camera phone. Like, kind of seeing, like, it's almost, I don't know if you have this on your setting on your phone or anything like that, but it tends to be just kind of like what you see, what you get type of thing, with that flat look a little bit. And then the end product is always, something that's just very dynamic and very cool to look at afterwards as well too. So I think the before and after definitely gives people a better appreciation for what you do as toy photography, is that it's not just simply taking your camera, snapping pictures of toys, but there's a lot of stuff that goes into it that makes it looks really good.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So when you're doing all your creative toy photography sets, where do you get your inspiration from when you're doing these things?
Like, I mean, for most of them, like, what I would say is, I mean, maybe not most. Like, there's a good chunk where it's kind of just like an idea, and like, I just want to try to put it together, and like, so it's, I mean, maybe I have like some kind of inspiration from a movie or show or video game, but like there's definitely some that are just like random thoughts, and I just like try to put it together, and it doesn't look like how I imagined. Sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's better,
Mm-hmm.
but it's kind of just like a, I don't know, boom. But there definitely are some, or another chunk that from a like a movie or a video game where it's like, hey, I really like how this looks, and so like, am I gonna use like, I mean, I'm just kind of random, like let's say Men in Black, like am I gonna use like Will Smith shooting like this? Well, no, I don't have a Will Smith figure, but I can use like a stormtrooper going like this, and it looks like it looks cool.
Yeah.
Um, so like, so that's a huge way of doing it. Also, like one thing that because I like to on my YouTube videos, I do a lot of tutorials where I'm trying to encourage people to like just get out there and shoot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like one of them with inspiration was like with comic books too, or even like Google, like looking at like anime. Anime is like super awesome because I
Mm-hmm.
feel like anime goes like extra all the way, like pushing the human body contortion stuff. And so like, yeah, your figure might not be able to do exactly that,
Mm-hmm.
but if you like the way he's like charging up his sword energy blade, well then, get your lightsaber guy and try to do that, and like boom, there's a pose for you. Or but I do also um I do try, well, maybe I haven't really tried enough recently, but I mean, I kind of said it already, like with Google Images and just kind of looking at like good photos in general.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like just seeing like what looks cool, because it's not like even when I'm telling people about like settings and stuff, like most of it doesn't matter if
Right.
it looks good. Like if I can like, like I have this like a brush, and it's like you're not supposed to paint like this, but if I go like this and I make like this really cool looking picture, like who cares how I did it?
Right.
Um, and so the same thing um with like the photos of like settings and all that, but yeah, a lot of it's just like kind of getting an idea from from some kind of book or movie, and just putting it together like how I see it. And I
Right.
guess, I mean, I don't want to get like too crazy, but like one way that I've seen it, or like I've done it before, or I like this analogy, is like looking at a cloud when you're like, oh, that cloud looks like a shoe, or that cloud looks like I don't know, baseball bat or whatever. That's kind
Yeah.
of random, but like I can look at that same cloud and I don't see it.
Yeah.
But
Gotcha.
here on Instagram, when I'm posting a picture, it's like this is me like zooming in on the cloud and drawing the outline for you to see what I see.
Right.
And so that's kind of how it is, because I feel like it's easy to watch, the Mandalorian and see like this epic background and all this cool stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but and be like, oh, I'm inspired by it, but like that's not always going to translate to like how I take it, or like it just might be different from person to person. And so
Mm-hmm.
um so there's definitely a lot of like little inspirations that just kind of come in from all over the place.
Right. Well, and one of the things that you said early on was how you had an inspiration from a scene from Men in Black, and you didn't have the Will Smith character, but you had a stormtrooper, and you
Mm,
thought the pose was great. I think that's actually a brilliant idea, is being able
mm,
to take something that you see in a different medium, and
mm,
then put in a character from a different universe in there.
mm.
And I think that that's really cool, because then you start thinking about possibilities of almost like the what if of Marvel, right? It's like, what if
Yeah.
this happens and all that. Have you done any photography where you've done crossovers like that, where a
Mm,
stormtrooper is fighting with someone from Star Trek
mm.
or anything like that?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, definitely not Star Trek, but like I've done some, the like the xenomorph alien. Like I've
Yeah.
done like Obi-Wan and Anakin like kind of lined up against that alien.
Uh-huh.
Oh, Buzz Lightyear against some stormtroopers.
Oh yeah.
Um
I'm gonna
uh
have to check these out now.
this one wasn't as cool. Like it didn't come out as good, but I did like Han Solo trying to tame a raptor from Jurassic Park.
Oh,
Uh,
I love that
I've done
idea.
the Iron Giant with C-3PO and R2-D2.
Mm-hmm.
I've done a few, I think, Star Wars and Pokemon ones. Like I've done like Grogu and Snorlax.
Yeah. You should do
Um,
like a Han Solo Indiana Jones one sometime.
yeah, because they did just recently come out with the Indiana Jones line,
Right.
like
Yeah.
from Hasbro.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll definitely be getting one of those. That'd be cool.
That's awesome. Well,
Mm.
good. Um, what is something about toy photography that people don't know about or would be surprised to learn if you said this to them?
Hmm. Uh, I mean, one thing I do like to say is like on my YouTube channel is like, well, it is overall. I do think it's easier than it looks,
Mm-hmm.
and like anybody can do it, and uh, not sure what else there, but like like just with your phone, because I feel like, and I had this dilemma too when I was doing like my own video stuff.
Uh-huh.
It was like, you know, you need like the best camera, you need the best lens, you need the best lighting and all this. And yes, there are lenses and lights that are way better than others,
Right.
but like you don't need that to get started. And
Right.
especially when it comes to like, I mean, I guess a hobby, like you don't, and even for kids, like I wish I knew about this when I was a kid. I feel like I would have, I mean, I don't know, maybe I wouldn't have been into it,
Mm-hmm.
but um I feel like I do have a lot of kids that follow me and like will say stuff and like talk about like their parents or whatever, and like
Mm-hmm.
um and how they think it's super cool and whatever. And then even in real life, like some of my friends and kids, or like my wife's coworkers, like see my stuff and they say their kids were actually taking pictures of toys. And
Oh, that's so
um
cool.
yeah, so it's like it's really cool, like to like you can just with phones today, like you
Mm-hmm.
can not just take pictures, but you can take really good pictures. So like if you have like a, you know, your favorite toy, like just line them up
Mm-hmm.
and then take a picture. And if you're like, oh, that doesn't look good, okay, what doesn't look good about it? Okay,
Right.
well, maybe it's the lighting's too harsh. Okay, well, let's come over here. Oh, okay, it looks better here, but
Mm-hmm.
it still looks kind of boring. Oh, we can add a golf ball to the image. Oh, cool, like it looks better now. And
Yeah.
so like, and there's no film, like there's no like, oh, I only got 20 shots left. Like
Yeah.
no, like you can take as million pictures as you want. So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, it doesn't look good like this. Okay, move it down. Oh, and like just keep going. And so and then so once you get there, it's like maybe that's as good as you can get with
Mm-hmm.
your phone. Okay, so then you can start to see like, oh, I do need to upgrade.
Right.
But I feel like before you get to that point, like your phone is such a perfect tool to get started
Yeah.
and kind of push you into that um like intermediate stage
Mm-hmm.
for sure. So that's the biggest thing, is like I feel like a lot of people are like say, or like they'll I mean, I know I've seen a lot of negative TikTok stuff, but I feel like I've been lucky to not get too much like negative comments. But I feel like one, it's not even that bad, but it's like, oh yeah, if you had like a $3,000 camera, like I could do that too. And it's like one, my camera's not that expensive anyway.
Right. Yeah.
But two, it's like it's totally not true. Like it's
Yeah.
just it's and that's what photography is. Like I think technically it's like the study of light or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so like so it's all about the lighting. That's like, I guess that's another main quote that I will say, is all about the lighting.
Yeah.
Like so if you can like be the master of one thing, like you can, like with knowing different lighting techniques and angles
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, like that's huge. So it's definitely way easier than it seems. But and then that's just at the very minimum. Like yes, just like with anything, like you can make it epic, you can make it super difficult,
Mm-hmm.
like, and maybe some shots in your head, yes, those are top level shots, excuse me, but at like just to get started, it's easier than it looks.
Right. Right. Well, and just like we said with the devices out there with smartphones having such good cameras now, those are great. It's a great way to get started into it. It makes it a lot more accessible than feeling like you have to have a
Mm.
very expensive camera to do some of those things, right? And so,
yeah.
But yeah, I think that's really cool to hear from you that it's not that difficult to get started. There are tutorials like yours out there with YouTube, which, by the way, I'll put those in the show notes as well too, for your YouTube channel and your social media as well. But there are YouTube videos and tutorials out there now that can help guide you in thinking about how to set up the shoot. But just like you said, about a small portion of it is about the equipment, and the majority of it is just knowing how to set things up. And that's one of the things I tell people all the time as well too, because I have people that say like, yeah, I feel like I have to get, like a really good ring light, or these, all these different kinds of lights and stuff like that, or really good microphone. I usually I'll be the first person to say that if you want to do that, that's fine. But honestly, you could probably solve 80% of your problem with just repositioning some of the things in your room with the lighting. And like, there are things that you can have in there. So for example, if you have like a lamp and you want to, highlight something in the background or highlight your face a little bit more, but you feel like it's very harsh on it, you just put some wax, like parchment paper, wax paper over it, and then kind of helps diffuse and all that. So it's looking at the techniques and looking at what you have at home that can do that. So that way you don't feel like you have to spend a lot of money to do this in order to get into that sort of thing. But I love hearing that kids are really inspired by some of your videos and that they're taking, photos of their toys. I feel like my son would love this. In fact, I need to show him your videos, because I think he would start doing that, because he loves lining up like all his action figures, and they're not even like in the same universe. He'll have Batman and Captain Marvel on one side and Thanos and Superman on the other side, and he would just have them all fight and everything like that. And then we just got some Harry Potter action figures that he's lining up in there, and we had a whole conversation about who would win, Thanos or Dumbledore, So we had to have a whole argument about that. But I think that's really cool that you're inspiring, a lot of people, but especially kids, to think about using photography as an art form with the things that they love. And I think that's something that will hopefully sprout out into other things that as they grow, older, that they can get into, professional photography, and not just toy photography, but they can get into different kinds of photography, or creating videos or things like that. And it just helps them kind of make something that can be really interesting and cool, because it's about something that they love, and then it kind of plants the seeds for those sorts of things later on too. So
definitely.
So not to switch gears a little bit, but I know in your TikTok videos recently you've been getting into showing off some of your retro collectible items, like your Game Boy and stuff like that. I want to ask you what got you into making videos about that? Was it just that you came across a box of those things and you thought it'd be really cool to share, or what kind of inspired you to start talking about those things? Because I'll say this is, when I saw that, it brought back all my childhood memories. Like, yes, I love the Game Boy. I love playing Home Alone and Teenage Ninja Turtles on it and stuff like that. I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I had my dark green and light green color Game Boy that I had as a kid. That's completely antique now, but I love seeing that. So I want to ask you what kind of got that started for you.
Yeah, so I know, like, I'm not super, I guess, zeroed in on like, I only have to do like photography and that's all I'm doing, or that's all I'm known for and that's it.
Right.
Like, but I do, like, as far as like growing a following kind of thing, is like, I don't, like, if I'm posting, about like my kids, my wife, Star Wars, photography, my wedding videos, church stuff, what I eat, my food, like, and I'm some like random person, like no one's gonna care about like that. So I understand, like niching down and picking one thing and focusing on that. And so that's my toy photography. So that's my foundation, and I love it. Like, it's not like I'm doing something I don't enjoy. Like, that's my main thing, and doing as much as I can with that when it comes to behind the scenes. Or, I mean, kind of in the same realm is like, oh, I got this figure, like, here, let me do a quick review on it, and then here's a photo of it. But on top of that, I do like to mix in different videos that aren't toy photography related. I still try to make them like nerdy related, but yeah, like, I don't do a lot of stuff with my kids and family. on like TikTok or YouTube. I did start my YouTube with some like dad life videos, but they didn't go as good as I thought. But yeah, like just kind of like mixing every now and then, like, oh, here's like a, a funny video with my kid, or oh, here's um like here's some old stuff that like I recently found, and
Mhm.
um and yeah, so it's just kind of like mixing apart, or like further sharing, or telling my story, or sharing my story, like both for the fun of it, and just for people that care or whatever.
Right.
And it's also just for like things to relate to, because I mean, just like you said, how you saw like my video, like I've seen other people like post stuff that, or I think even you posted like the the Ninja Turtle ornaments,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I think 3 of those,
Yes.
and I was just in my attic because my mom always had them and kept them, and she gave them to me.
Mhm.
And so like, yeah, I just had them, so it's cool seeing that, and just being able to be like, dang, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And even if it's like 5 seconds of like smile and joy,
Mhm.
like it's worth it, and it's cool. And so just being able to share little things like that, and I do like retro stuff a lot, especially like, the 90s kids vibe. Like, um I mean, I'm obviously biased, but I feel like that was just like the best generation,
Yeah.
best time. So so anytime I can like shout that out too, and I'm definitely proud of that. So
Oh yeah, definitely. Well,
so
we got so much stuff from the 90s that seem like they're staples now, So
mm,
not that Batman came out in the 90s whatsoever. We had Michael Keaton
mm,
89 and Adam West beforehand, and
yeah, yeah.
even, the I think the 60s animated series of Batman and all that, but Batman the animated series in the 90s ended up being a cornerstone of what people expect from a Batman type of movie or show, because of just how influential it is. The
Mm,
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, how that started in the late 80s, early 90s, and how
mm,
that's been, just a
mm,
cultural phenomenon across the board and everything. So I think you're onto something though, because it's really fascinating. Because when I think about my own parents, especially my dad, I don't hear him or think about I don't hear him say anything regarding something about his childhood that he gets excited about with it could be a toy or some sort of figure or anything like that. He's a car man. So when you talk about
mm.
cars, he'll talk to you about cars all day long. But when it comes to like
Yeah.
his childhood, in terms of
Mm,
toys that they had, I never hear them talk about anything in relation to that. And I feel like that's something that in our generation we do that a lot now, because that's probably where the phenomena of toys being a market for
mm,
kids and being part of that childhood experience is something that we kind of, I don't want to say cling to necessarily, but it's something that it brings up a lot of pleasant memories of things that we loved as a kid, and we want to share that with our own kids and everything. And so I think
mm.
there's something, to what you said about how the 90s just seem to have a lot of things that people gravitate, whether you're an adult that grew up in the 90s or, nowadays kids are loving things from the 90s for whatever reason,
Yeah.
and I don't know how neon colors made a comeback, but it did.
Yeah,
Yeah, so it's very fascinating. So yeah, I'm with you on that. I think there's something about that. So
for sure.
um, you talked about your TikTok a little bit. I want to ask you, I know you just started it, I think last year or the year before.
Mhm.
Were you expecting it to take off the way it did? Because now I think you have like what, over how many followers now? It grew like a lot in the last year or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I think I'm at like
Ye-
77,000.
Yeah, you just started like I think 2021, like late 2021 or something like that, right?
Yeah, the fall 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your account grew a lot, and a lot of it
Mhm,
was because of the toy photography you've been doing and things
mhm,
like that, and just all the other stuff like the retro
mhm.
collectibles that you've been showing off and things like that. Were you expecting that sort of thing?
Uh,
What were you feeling when you saw that, it just kept growing like the way it did? I'm just kind of curious
yeah,
about that feeling, especially with it being toy photography. Like, I
yeah.
don't know if you're like, yeah, I knew toy photography was going to be a thing, or you're just really surprised that toy photography did so well with you.
uh, yeah, so I know, well, I mean, first off, the like I remember my one of my friends, who was actually like a student to so that I used to be like a leader with.
Mm-hmm.
And he was all like, I think it's like all Gen Z with TikTok and stuff.
Right.
And he was like, oh man, like you need to, like with your toy photography, you should go on TikTok. And he had been telling me, like, I want to say at earliest, like at least a year, maybe longer, like to
Mm-hmm.
do it. And I definitely had like I was still under the impression of like, oh, TikTok's just dancing and it's for little kids and whatever.
Right.
And so I never like gave it a second thought. It was always like, oh, okay, and then like I would just blow it off and not do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what happened. I don't know like what changed. It might have been just like my desire to be like, you know what, like I want to make this something more than just a hobby. Like I need to
Mm-hmm.
put myself out there. So I had my Instagram and YouTube, and so I was like, I'm gonna use, like I know TikTok is good at like getting growth or whatever. So I'm gonna use my TikTok to shoot people to YouTube and Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just became like this thing. But what ended up happening was like I fell in love with it, and it's been super cool because like I'm all about quality, and like I respect good quality and stuff like that from
Mm-hmm.
everything when it comes to like everything. But um and there's definitely a place for that, obviously, but it's cool to, like with TikTok, and not that there's not that good quality stuff on there, but
Right.
like you can, like you, just when it comes to like posting on your phone, like I
Mm-hmm.
don't need to bust out my camera and then send it to my computer and then edit and then send it back to my phone and then post it. I
Yes.
can just shoot my phone and post it, and like nobody cares if like this behind the scenes is like HD 4K quality or just phone HD quality.
Right.
So that's definitely a big part in it. Dang, I'm drawing a blank.
That's okay.
Photo. What was the question again?
Just what
Oh yeah, yeah, okay. Sorry. I just needed you to say something. So yeah, when it came to TikTok, I was like, okay, fine, let me do it, and it was cool. I kind of getting started, and I was kind of just sharing, like I tried to be out there on a couple of them, and like it didn't do well. And it's funny how much like your life hinges on like the views, and it's like, oh man, like I suck now. And but
Mm-hmm.
then and I was kind of just sharing, like I would post stuff on Instagram and be like, hey, well, here's just a quick video of that. And it wasn't anything like purposeful, because I wasn't, it wasn't my main thing. It was
Right.
just like a means to an end kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't until I realized, like, hey, this can be something more than just like a funnel or whatever. Like it actually can be like one of the big three.
Yeah.
And so, and then like on top of that too is like I'm not, like there are like a good amount of toy photographers that have like more followers,
Mm-hmm.
and so I saw, and it kind of even, I mean, there's like a mixed bag, because like you can have some people that have, like there's like some big toy photographer accounts on Instagram, and then so I mean they can make an account wherever,
Mm-hmm.
and it's gonna have a lot. So it doesn't mean they grew on TikTok,
Right.
but I know I've seen a lot of people that have a big account on TikTok that got a big account elsewhere because of TikTok. And on that, like there's some like photographers that I've seen that have like over 100, 200,000 on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and they don't even do that much. Like
Right.
it's just like, here's, like maybe once a week, here's a behind the scenes and photo. But the thing was, or is, they started a long time ago.
Right.
And so they started a while ago. And so I know like there's a lot of people that complain or whatever about like, there was a big boom before or something,
Mm-hmm.
like of people surging to TikTok and all that. And
Yeah.
so I think if you were on, earlier back then, it was easier to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, with that, I just knew, hey, this guy has over that many, like it's possible.
Right.
So um and I guess not to be, I guess, big headed or anything like that, but like I would see their work and it'd be like, mine's not, like mine's kind of better than that.
Right.
Or I would see some people's work and be like, yeah, like I mean that's cool, but I feel like my shot, or I can do that way better.
Mm-hmm.
So So yeah, like TikTok became a huge thing, and I was growing like steadily. I had a couple big videos here and there, but I remember there was this one, and it was my friend's suggestion. It was the theme of I guess it was like a trend saying um like, oh, it's just a toy, you can't make it look real.
Right.
And and so and my friend that had first told me about TikTok, he was telling me like, oh dude, you should do this. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, I'm not saying no to him again. And so I did it, and it got like the first time I did it, it got um I think like 100,000 views. And then I did it again, and like for a different figure, like the same trend. Like I didn't do it all the time.
Right.
I didn't want to like overdo it. I was kind of like spacing it out. And then I did it again, and it was like 200,000.
Oh
And so I was like,
wow.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
And then I think I did it another time, and it was kind of maybe like it went up again a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But then, and then those did get me followers. And so I think I was sitting at like 9,000 something. And I
Right.
remember that night, and I was like feeling all like giddy because I was like, I'm gonna post like I think it's the fourth or fifth one where
Mm-hmm.
it's like the same trend,
Yeah.
and so which is funny because it's almost like the same stuff that I do normally, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
because the words are there. I
Yeah.
guess those words like keep people interested. Like, oh, is he gonna make it look real? I don't know. Ooh.
Yeah.
Um, so for whatever reason, like I was like feeling confident about this video, and so I was like, because I had like a goal of 10,000. Like it's like,
Right.
oh, 10K, like, oh, it's the goal. And so I remember like hitting post, and like I just turned my phone off, and I was like, oh man, like tomorrow morning I'm gonna hit 10,000. And like little did I know, when I opened it, like that video took off. And I think within, I don't know if it was overnight. No, yeah, I think it was overnight. It already had like 500 or 600,000 views,
Wow.
and I already had like I think like 10,000 followers or something.
Yeah.
Like from that, so it was kind of lame because I feel like I was working so hard for like the nine, like to get to 10K, and it was like, it felt like a little grind. Like I was like here, 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 and then
Yeah.
overnight, this one video was like, and
Yeah.
and so like it did feel super awesome, but at the same time, it was a little overwhelming too.
Mm-hmm.
And then it did, like I think now, like once the dust settled, I think it settled at like 5.1 million views.
Right.
and
Wow.
and I think that one I did get, I want to say just from that one video, I probably got like 20,000, that got 20,000 followers that came from that video.
No kidding.
Um yeah, so that's
Yeah.
the I mean that's the power. I'm not like a TikTok sponsor, but that's the power of
Yeah.
TikTok. Um
Yeah.
and and yeah, I know it did give me a little boost in Instagram. It did give me a little boost in YouTube as well. So
Mm-hmm.
so it was
Yeah.
cool. And um so yeah, as far as like I did know it was possible. I didn't think it was gonna happen like that.
Right.
I definitely thought there was gonna be more of the grind for it. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
like it's not like I'm done. Like that's not the end goal by any means.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm excited with where I'm at, and I think it's still only the beginning. I do have like a million ideas
Mm-hmm.
for like stuff to post, both toy photography and not toy photography.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's a good. I mean, I know there's a lot of like TikTok haters, but I mean it's a good app, and
Yeah.
there's a lot more than dancing on it.
Oh yeah. Well, and you know that comes from when they bought out Musically, because Musically I
Mhm.
think was the basis
Oh
for
yeah,
TikTok. But you know, just
yeah.
as what you're saying, when I first got on TikTok, I was doing a lot of video editing stuff, and so what I would do is do a lot of my videos in Premiere Pro or After Effects, and do
Mhm.
a lot of the visual effects. I was not a visual effects artist by any means whatsoever, but I was learning how to do it. And so I was
Mhm.
doing videos, you know, during the pandemic with my kid, and I would make him look like he's the Flash, or you know, we do
Yeah.
like these fun. There's one video that I really love that we put on YouTube, was like a magical hide and seek video where I made it look like he could, you know, hide anywhere he wanted to hide by using these you know, these little video editing tricks, like make him disappear in a cardboard box, or have him
Mhm.
run through the garage door, or he's in a photo frame and you know is frozen. I walk by it, and then after I walk by it, you know, all of a sudden it comes to life and everything. And so that was a lot of fun
Nice.
doing that. But when I put it on TikTok, the problem was like it was a lot of time going into it, and it just wasn't getting a lot of traction or anything like that. Because if you're putting stuff out there, I mean, the whole goal, whether you admit it or not, is that you want people to see it and everything. And so when I did a few of those videos and just thought that it wasn't worth the return on investment of putting all these hours into this video, and it's like getting just a couple hundred views and that's it. And so what I started doing was abandoning that. Even with this show, I was doing like some highly produced videos and make it look professional. I think out of all the videos I put out there, I think only one or two got over 1,000 views. And so I started to do less of the video editing and lean more into just recording natively in the app and doing stories about my niche. And that's when it really, took off for me, is that it saved me a lot of time of doing this stuff. And I think that's the thing that makes TikTok really accessible, is that you could tell stories without having to have a very high production level experience, and you could still get your stories out there and people really enjoy it. And so just using, just the stuff in app for the editing and stuff like that, I think does a lot of wonders. That's what made it successful, is that people could tell their stories without feeling like it needs to be highly polished. They could just use those. It's almost like, TikTok always kind of explain it as it's like a video meme creator, because there's those trends that you create videos towards and all that. And that's exactly what memes are, is you take some sort of trend or template and then you put your own spin to it. And that's what TikTok does. And I think that's what makes it really accessible for people, is that you can, tell a lot of stories out there without having to have access to, these video tools and things like that. So yeah, I think you're right on the money with that. In terms of why TikTok is just so successful, is this made it so accessible for people to tell their stories without feeling like it has to go through a production studio.
For sure.
Yeah. So, well, last thing, and then we will go into the comics that we're reading. Earlier, before we started talking and recording, you had mentioned that you were getting some comics because you have seen some really cool panels that has inspired you with some of the photography. I just want to kind of ask you, what was that moment, or what was that event that you saw some sort of comic panel that made you want to get that? And what are some of those, I guess, some of those inspirations from seeing that art made you want to recreate that with your toy photography?
Yeah, I would say I do have a friend that is like really into comic books, and I know, and I mean, he's into other like movies and stuff too, but I guess comic books would be his main thing. And I know he always like, he would always talk about comics with me, I guess, kind of like assuming that like I read them and all that.
Right.
And and like, I guess I kind of like never really like paid attention to it, but I feel like it was, I don't know if it was one conversation or like sometime after, but I know there was a moment where uh it might have been like reading also, because it's not a comic, but it's I think a graphic novel with Spider-Man.
Okay.
The one
Life Story.
No,
it's like a blue cover with the side face.
Well, because I did an audiobook of it. So I don't remember.
Okay, gotcha.
It has to do with the vampire people.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, and it's slipping my mind right now.
Yeah, but like my wife and I on a trip out of town, we listened to the whole book, and it was super cool. And I think that kind of triggered some like, like it would be cool to kind of read this like in a comic form too.
Right.
And so I did buy some, and then I bought some Star Wars one, or no, I think also someone on Instagram posted a Star Wars comic. I think that's what it was too. Like it was like just like all these things colliding at around the same time, and so
yeah,
it just kind of hit me like it looked cool, and I saw like potential for inspiration.
Yeah,
and so that was one thing that when I was looking through, I was like, I want to buy a few, and like which ones would inspire me the most. And and so kind of looking through and being able to see, like, use some of those like panels as like, hey, this is already like a, cool looking shot.
Yeah.
And similar to, like I mentioned before, it's like, well, this one is of, I don't know, which one do I have? Like, even if it's like a Darth Vader one, and he's like, oh, here's Darth Vader, and like he's gonna destroy this guy. Well, it's like, maybe I don't want to use Darth Vader. Like, I can use anyone.
Right.
Like, here's Obi-Wan doing the same pose, but it's still like, the environment, the posing, the setup, like the shots there. I'm just kind of adding my own flair to it, and so.
Right.
So from there, I did use a few comic books, and then I didn't read any, but then I ended up buying some more. And then, like, I had gone to a free comic book day and saw some other ones that I just grabbed, and
yeah.
So I kind
those
of
are really good ones to get out of, because
uh,
they have a lot of great. I mean, I don't think a lot of them are, continuity necessarily, but they are just a lot of fun ones that you can at least get those visuals from and get inspiration. And what, going back to your photography, I think one of the things I absolutely love is how you show, in some cases, like if there's, some sort of event going on where somebody just does like a superhero landing, or they're
yeah.
in a, like a desert or something like that, you take like a air duster and
Oh yeah.
spray it to get that dust sense
Yeah.
coming from the photography. And I think that's really cool. And I didn't know if you had any other things or other tricks or tips in thinking about when you're recreating a scene like that. What are some things that you can get that are relatively cheap, or something that you can get in your household to kind of recreate some of those scenes, whether it's, it doesn't have to be like a dusty background or anything like that, but something that somebody's like, I want to create the scene, but I think you have to get a lot of expensive stuff. And you're like, actually, you only need like a couple of things that you probably have around your house.
Yeah, I know. Well, one thing for the dust is like, because yes, it's a toilet. It's like a toilet plunger gun. And so, I mean,
Oh,
it
yeah.
costs like $10,
Right.
and like you just pump it up and blast it. But another alternative to that is I thought I had one lying around, is like the keyboard spray. And
Yes.
so that, I mean, you just spray that on the dirt and it pops up. But and it I guess it is different, or it can be different from the blaster, because it's kind of like it's more of like a mist blowing rather than an explosion. So the
Oh, okay.
blaster
Yeah.
is more of like an explosion, hero landing. This
Right.
one is kind of misty, and there's other small, like, I don't have one, but it's I mean, you can also use like a spray bottle, but like a mister, like a facial mister,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
kind of like you
It
just
has like the
spray
fan
that.
on it.
There's one with the fan, but then there's also some others that I guess they're more high tech, and it's kind of, I don't even know what it does, but it just kind of like it just kind of shoots out like water, but it's like a very like mist, and
Right.
so
It
it's almost
disperses it
like,
a lot.
yeah. And so
Yeah.
I don't have one, but I've seen some people use that. But I've used just like a water spray bottle, and kind of give, like, it's easy to get like a rain effect.
Right.
Um, I've seen people, I think I've done it once or twice, like you just throw sand or
Mhm.
throw dirt, and like just throwing that can give that motion.
Yeah.
Um, Also, even uh, like I stole this for my son, like kinetic sand.
Yeah.
Like I've used this in a few shots where, because this is easy, like just to throw inside,
Mhm.
and it's all like, if it's not moving, it's sand. But like
Right.
if you move it, like you can grab all of it and just put it back in its box. But like that's an easy base.
Right.
I love using rocks. Like some of my behind the scenes like will be just starting with me grabbing a rock that I found at my park, like a big.
Mhm.
I'm talking about big rocks, like that look kind of cool. And hey, this is like this is like either it could be a giant wall, it could be just a big boulder.
Yeah.
Um, but like I feel like that's not a. I've seen that as an excuse. Also, is, like the dioramas, like, oh, I don't have like fancy cool backgrounds or
Right.
whatever, and it's like, yeah, but you can make that. You can,
Mhm.
at the very minimum, or even like the excuse with lights is like there's sun. And even if it's a cloudy day, that's even better because the
Right.
cloud diffuses it and all that. So like at the very minimum, you have your phone, you have dirt, and you have sunlight. Like, even a street light, like whatever. Like
Oh yeah.
that's all you need to get some good stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
then
Well,
but yeah, and then there's always like so much more you can add to that, like when it
yes.
comes to like accessories or
Mhm.
anything like that. But I mean, just speaking from like the bare minimum, like you don't need a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I even there was a TikTok video I did where I use my Daredevil and Kingpin Legos, but I use the
Mhm.
monitor as the
Oh
background
yeah, yeah.
to
Mhm, mhm,
simulate this. And so I got a picture of Fisk Tower and put it on the
mhm.
monitor, and I used some Scotch tape to tape Daredevil on the screen, so it looks like he's standing on top
Oh,
of
nice.
one of the
Mhm,
platforms.
mhm,
And just by positioning it, you couldn't tell that it was a monitor necessarily. You could tell it was a screen or an
mhm,
image maybe, but you couldn't tell it was a monitor. You didn't know exactly, at least in my opinion, what it was, but it looked like it was just part of the background. And like it's just those things where
mhm,
looking at what you have and manipulating those things to be able to set up the shot is really all you really need to have. You don't need to have a lot of these expensive things like you're talking about. It's if you want to
mhm.
create an outdoor scene, you probably have all the things that you need in your backyard or your front yard. You just
Yep,
have to think about how to set those things up and kind of replicate that. So yeah, no,
definitely.
that's cool. Awesome. Well, great. Well, before I let you go, I always end the episode with talking about what comics we're reading. I know before we started recording, you said that you don't usually regularly read comics, but you did get a few comic books recently. What are some of those issues or books that you got?
Um, Let me see. I have it right here. It's I got because my kids invaded my office,
Yeah,
and
that
so
happens.
mm, I know I have like a stash because I know I have some Marvel ones.
Hmm.
I think I just got Spider-Man ones, like one, and I mean I just kind of bought them at a wrong, like I'm not sure if you should buy them in order or anything, but I just bought one that had like Miles Morales on it also, and it looked
Yeah,
cool, and so
I buy
hmm.
whatever looks cool to me at the moment. To be honest.
Yeah, so these are like the Star Wars ones that I got. Like this was
Oh,
one that had
nice.
it had like three different stories
Yeah.
because I bought this one before Obi-Wan came out
Uh huh.
because there was a lot of people saying, I think this might have been the first one actually,
Okay.
because people were saying like some of these theories of like, oh, like this guy's gonna come out in it, and
Yeah.
it might have this cool guy or something, and so I was like, I want to kind of be on top of that. I want to see like what's up and know the foundation of it all.
Yeah.
So, and it is cool. Like there are definitely are some stuff from here that came out in the show
Hmm.
and all that. And then I haven't really looked at these much, but they just look cool because it's Darth Maul and Darth Vader.
Yes.
Um,
Those are my
and
son's
so
two favorite characters is Darth Vader and Darth Maul from Star Wars. So
nice.
he'll be very happy about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so some cool, like,
That's awesome.
I don't know, because it's also like there's definitely some cool art shots,
Yeah.
but even just like some of the action, it's just like it's
Yeah.
simple, but like I can
You
use
could
this as
definitely
the
do a photo of that.
foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be
So
really cool. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
so yeah, good
Awesome.
stuff.
Yeah. The ones that I'm reading, and actually I happen to have them back here, they'll just pull out here real quick, is and I read most of these. So speaking of, these are two issues that I found at a comic shop that I wasn't planning on getting, but I saw them and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and do this. And there are two issues of Cable that came out, I
Mm.
think in like early 2000s or something like that. And I'm a huge fan of X-Men, and I remember reading about Cable, being the son of Scott Summers, which Cyclops is one of my favorite characters from the X-Men, and so
Mm.
I picked this up and read this, and I actually really love it to the point that I'm probably going to get more comics of Cable, and I've been talking to people about maybe cosplaying as that character at some point
Oh,
too.
nice.
But yeah, I also have Dark Knights of Steel from Tom Taylor that just came out, which is really good. Spider-Man issue number 4 from Dan Slott and Mark Bagley has been really fantastic. And then the others that I'm getting ready to read actually is issue 4 of The Joker, The Man Who Stopped Laughing, which I don't know if you've read this issue or know much about it. Have you heard about the story going around about Joker being pregnant?
I have.
So it's in this issue. I've not read it yet, but I've read enough online to know what is going on, and that it's a over. I'll say this: it's being over. What's the word I'm looking for? Over. It's being blown up, I guess, like kind of overblown. That's the word I was looking for. Overblown. Sorry. But it's being a little overblown, in my opinion, in terms of what's happening in the issue and all that, because not to get into it too much, but it's what's called a backup story, which is not the main story. And come to find out, it's not what people are saying it is or think it is, at least not in its entirety and all that. So that's where that story is coming from, is this issue. And I'm probably going to do a couple of videos about it, actually, once I read it. So.
Nice.
But then the other one that I've been reading, this is issue 2 of The Riddler Year 1, which is written by Paul Dano, who played the Riddler in the Batman movie.
Oh, dang.
Yes, and it is very well done. I'll say this, the story is well done. So Paul Dano's writing the story, and then the art is fantastic, because I feel like the art really captures the mental state of Edward Nashton in the comics. And I think they've done a fantastic job with that. So it's actually been one of my favorite series I've been reading so far. So absolutely love it. Yeah. So I'm excited to read those. I'll probably read those today, actually.
Sweet.
And then we have a couple of people who shared what they're reading this week. So from Comic Watch, the editor-in-chief, Matt Meyer, said he's currently reading the Thunderbolts Omnibus Volume 1. He said it's Chef's Kiss. I've never really been into Thunderbolts. Have you been in Thunderbolts when you were a kid or anything?
No. I feel like I just kind of see it, but I haven't really looked into it.
Yeah, I've only heard about it, but I never actually read any comics that feature the Thunderbolts. And then a contributor at Comic Watch, Kev Rossi, said that he is giving the Dark Tower books that Marvel put out a few years ago a read. It's plotted by Stephen King's research assistant and scripted by Peter David, art by Jay Lee and Richard Eisenov. The art really wasn't his thing when they came out, but he's enjoying it now. Plus, he's reading some older Indiana Jones comics that Dark Horse put out. So if you're going to be doing some Indiana Jones comics, that might be something to, or Indiana Jones photography, that might be something to check out at some point.
Yeah, that could be cool.
Yeah.
Sure.
And then from our Illuminacasters Discord, which, by the way, if you're listening, if you want to join it, there will be a link in the episode show notes. From the Illuminacasters Discord, Ken from the ODPH podcast said that he's currently reading The Dead Lucky by Image Comics. I've not read it, but I've heard great things about it. I also don't know much about it either, but a lot of people that I'm in comics, social media groups and stuff like that have been talking a lot about it. So that might be something I might pick up at some point. So yeah. So, all right. Well, those are the comics that we're reading. Matt, thank you very much for joining the show and talking about your journey with toy photography. Before I let you go, where can people find you and your work online?
Yes, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. All of them are at AmusingKing. I know YouTube, because like they just introduced that new tag or whatever.
Yeah.
Because like my name is Matt Moff Films, but I put my tag as AmusingKing. So they should all be the same, AmusingKing spelling, one word.
Awesome.
But Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
Awesome. I'll make sure to put those in the show notes as well, too. So, Matt, thanks again. I am looking forward to seeing more stuff that you put out there. Your work is fantastic. And like I said, I cannot wait until you get a partnership with Hasbro to do more stuff officially for them.
All right. Yeah, appreciate it.
And that wraps up another episode of The Captioned Life. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. You can follow us on social media at Captioned Life. For more information about us and all of our previous episodes, visit thecaptionedlife.com.